Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dollar Auction Show with Shimon and Alex. Shimon, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing really well. The family has been recovering from a long cold slash flu slash weird sickness. So yeah, feeling good.
Well,
How are
that's
you?
good to hear. I'm doing pretty well. We have a lot of new things happening in the world, mainly uh, the stuff with Iran. We should talk about that. Stuff with Minneapolis. We should talk about that. And then the continuous boredom of Bitcoin. We should maybe not talk
Not
about that.
boring. It's not boring at all. I don't understand. Just because we underperformed bonds in the last year doesn't mean that it's boring. It was flat, but with a lot of volatility. So it's definitely not boring.
Well, I will take
That's
the other
really the
side of this.
price you pay for underperforming U.S. government bonds. That's what I say.
The flat line that we've had for over a year. You showed me the chart.
Yeah.
For a year, flat.
Well, it's better. So today, actually, I'm saying underperformed bonds because bonds pay like 4%. But as of right now, we have gained over the last 12 months, drum roll, 0.39%.
Yes.
So, it ain't
Pumping.
much, but it's honest work. That's
All in a good day's worth of 126, 70, even.
Although I heard an interesting thesis that is basically like from the low of 16,000 to the high of 126, it's actually a good 8x. So you could basically say that the price didn't disappoint.
The price did not disappoint. If only one can sell at the highs and buy the lows, this is a winning strategy, I tell you, but only our listeners will hear this alpha.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do. Sell high and buy low, and the rest will take care of itself.
You heard it here
You
first.
heard it here first. What should we actually talk about? You want to talk about Iran?
Well, I mean, there's not a lot to say about Iran. This is the most the environment with the most media blackout and just blackout in general that I've seen actually in my life. Like even like the Iraq war, or if you look the Ukraine war, like you could always tell what's happening. And here, as someone who understands Iran, I have no idea. Like I just know that what we're reading in the news is not doesn't make sense to me. So, for example, when the New York Times says that Israel uh, asked Trump to not attack because their air defenses weren't ready, I know for a fact that that could not have been the case, because if that was the case, the New York Times wouldn't know about it, right? Imagine Israel's air defenses aren't ready. Kind of a big deal, right?
Yeah.
Somebody leaked it, New York Times. And so it's like, I just would assume that if that was the case, it wouldn't be published. So nobody knows. My best guess, I would love to hear your best guess, but my best guess is what they're trying to do. So I'll just first start by saying one of the people that I really respect, his name is Mike Doran. He was on the national security team of George Bush Jr., and he's very very pro-Israel, very good, very smart guy. He works for the Hudson Institute, and he basically thinks that he has an equal chance of three scenarios. Right? Scenario number one: the regime stays in place and is able to fight off the protests, just like it happened in 2009. Scenario two: they're able to only replace the head of the regime, or a bunch of people high up in the regime, and then keep the current regime of the Revolutionary Guards and everything, but just remove
IRGC.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, the IRGC, the Iranian
And
Revolutionary
Basis,
Guards.
right?
Yeah, there's basically all the like in Iran, the army is like less loyal to the fanatics than the Revolutionary Guards and the Basij, which is kind of like a national guard if you think about it. But my point is, like, you decapitate the top and then you just tell them, okay, no more nukes, no more ballistic missiles, but you can keep oppressing your people and having a theocracy. And that's the scenario I'm really afraid from. And then the third scenario is like we change the regime and it's a budding
But
democracy.
why is the second scenario worse for you than the first, which is leaving the status quo?
It's not worse. It is worse because leaving the status quo is unsustainable. While the U.S. pressures So the only reason that this regime was able to like work on their nuclear program is because of Obama, who gave them a lifeline of money and lifting of sanctions for the nuclear deal. Now, we could debate if it was a good deal or bad deal. I'm not even getting into that. I'm just saying it's a fact that because of the deal, they got a bunch of money. And then Trump, on his first term, exited the deal, which meant like he returned the sanctions. From the moment that Trump returned the sanctions, the economy of Iran has been going worse and worse and worse and worse. And that's why there's a big hope for the regime to fall, because like at the end of the day, if people don't get water, don't get electricity, and don't get like, it's hard for them to live, that's when you topple a regime. So if the US decapitates the regime, it will come with a lot of economic benefits, just like they did in Syria, if you think about it, right? They took like a guy, it was like so surreal. I don't know if we spoke about it in the podcast, but there was the Julani, the head of Syria, sharing a panel with a guy from CENTCOM that was interviewing him about like
Yeah, yeah.
the building of Syria, and
It
that
was
was the guy
ISIS.
that was hunting him down
Yeah,
during the war against ISIS or whatever. So it's crazy, crazy world we're living in. All the like, we should talk about how like all the diplomacy and all the world order that we were used to,
we
it's
should.
changing.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think it's changing for the better.
Let's talk about it now. I think this is.
But just to put a cap on Iran, you asked a really good question.
Yeah,
So I'm more worried about them opening, uh, financial lifeline to the current regime, because what happens is once you have the know-how of making a nuclear weapon, it's actually not that hard to set it up from scratch. The hard part is getting the know-how. Getting the like how to. A nuclear weapon is basically two things. One is you take sand and you extract uranium out of the sand, and then you have to like explode the uranium in a very precise way, so it creates a chain reaction, right? Both of those two things are very hard, because the only reason to know them is to make a nuclear bomb. So like, for example, if you want to make electricity from nuclear stuff, you just buy the uranium. It's not a problem. You just buy the uranium from like a uranium selling company. I used to invest in a ETF, UUU, that basically has all the uranium companies. You just literally buy the uranium, you create electricity, and then you send it back. And they can measure very, very precisely that the only thing you did with the uranium is created the electricity that you are telling them that you're going to create. So that's why you can't just buy uranium and build a bomb with it. Because like whoever sells you the uranium, if you say, I'm going to make electricity, and then you don't bring back the rods with the exact like condition that you would expect them to be after generating the electricity, that's it. It's like you're a criminal, or we're gonna bomb you. So that's why what they have to do is take like the sand and extract uranium out of the sand, which is a very, very, very complicated process.
and enrich it.
Enrichment is extracting. It's basically taking it from, if I remember correctly, it's like 0.9% in the sand, and you have to get it to like 90%. So if you think about like 0.9 to 90, it's like many, many, many steps of refining, refining, refining. So once you know how to do it, though, it's not hard, right? It's not like the machines are, if you destroy the machines, you can't build them again. And then it's the same thing with the explosion, because the explosion, once they discovered, like in World War II, how to explode the thing, everybody knows how to do it. Now you just need supercomputers to make sure that the explosion is exactly in the right like way it should be. But then you can destroy all the supercomputers. The engineers can just rebuild the software. It's not hard. It's not like it's exploding TNT that squishes the uranium together, and that creates the chain reaction. So that's what worries me, that like they will give him money, and like the regime will say, fine, we're dismantling all of our nuclear stuff, and then 20 years from now they can rebuild it, and by then they will have crushed all the opposition, put everybody in jail, gotten money, given a good life to their citizens. And so that really worries me, actually. And that's why I said, we were speaking last night about Trump, is he good or bad or whatever, and like we can analyze on different things. But in foreign policy, up until Venezuela, I was like, yeah, really, really amazing president. And then I really want to see how Iran goes. And the other
Why
thing,
up until Venezuela? Why didn't you like in
no,
Venezuela?
including Venezuela, I'm
Okay,
saying
got it.
up,
Yeah.
like after Venezuela. But my point is, we
There's
also
a big
don't know the
test.
intelligence. So that's why I think it's a little bit of a waste of time to analyze stuff based on public intelligence, because you don't know if there's a number two. Like in Venezuela, nobody knew that Maduro's number two was willing to cooperate with the US. Nobody knew that. That just came out of nowhere. So
I
who
didn't realize that was the case, actually.
well, yeah, because like who thought, right? People were thinking about, like, remember Juan Guaido on like the first term of Trump, when they were trying to overthrow the government, and there was this opposition leader Juan Guaido, and there was Mike Pence, like white dude. He was like, "Nosotros tenemos estamos con ustedes amigos." Like he was like such a shit show, and nothing happened, right? Nothing happened. The regime stayed. Now there was no Juan Guaido. There was no like demonstrations in the streets against the regime, and they were able to actually get what they wanted. So that's why I'm saying, without the intelligence, it's really hard for me to have an opinion.
Yeah.
What do you think about Iran?
No, I mean, you have a better perspective. You shared a lot. I mean, I hope they get toppled. I like your
Yeah, me too,
assessment
of
that
course.
taking off the head and leaving the whatever, the body, and then giving him a lifeline is not good. I agree that it's worth. I don't know if it's. I mean, for the people, the problem is that the current regime is going to massacre the people. They need to go, and I think this is the biggest test for Trump. I told you yesterday we were talking about this, and Trump has been playing a really masterful geopolitical. Again, I just think this is true on a geopolitical international level. It's been a masterful game. There are some gaffes. We should talk about Canada, by the way, in a second. Let me bring that up. And Venezuela was a check move. Iran vis-a-vis China and Russia, because they showed that the Chinese and the Russian anti-aircraft defense wasn't working. They showed that they could get in and out of a country and take a leader without taking any losses. I mean, I think maybe the helicopters got shot and got some bullet holes, and that's just like unheard of. Um, so it's a serious power flex and signals like don't fuck around in the future. And then this is the most important part. I think what people miss. It's not about just isolate to Venezuela. It's a signal to China and Russia. That was a check move. If he's able to force a fairly kind of peaceful and orderly regime change in Iran, which is extremely hard, but if he can, that's checkmate. Because then China doesn't go on Taiwan. Russia now has to. It hugely affects the oil prices and affects the Russia-Ukraine war. So now Russia has to play ball quickly. I mean, it's just a very hard thing to do. And Trump, I think, cements himself as one of the most consequential presidents ever in the history. Just truly by the moves he's making. Now, there are. It's hard to do in Iran, but it's almost like if he doesn't do it, why I'm kind of nervous about your scenario too. He has to do something, and he has to show us a win. So he might do that, call it a win, but it's not actually a good outcome. And we'll see why he stopped the strike. Right? He was going to strike, he stopped it. On one hand, it could be because he wanted to see the reaction. Now he knows the defenses. That's what people are speculating. Okay. On the other hand, it could be that he got pressured from the Gulf states. Or maybe I also everything in the news I now take as almost as like counterintelligence that they're placing. Like, do the Saudi Arabia and other states that they want to come out and cover their ass and say, yeah, it's not going to be in our airspace, but secretly before this, are they actually against it because they don't want a mess in their backyard? The UAE came out today and said we're not part of the group that was against it. There are all of these.
I don't want to like even waste.
I agree. I'm just
What we can do is like we can analyze from first principles, but
yeah.
taking something from the news, I'll give you something also
I'm
that
just saying that everything. I'm just saying everything I read now. I consider disinformation. I consider it's purposely
exactly,
placed there.
exactly. It's basically placed there to provoke some reaction or to see whatever. But I'll give you something else that's really suspicious. So Israel, they have a very specific way of denying things that are true. So if I tell you, if you accuse me, let's say I don't know, let's say I went yesterday and had like 6 scoops of ice cream, and then you would say, "Hey, Shimon, yesterday evening you had 6 scoops of ice cream, right?" And if I was like the Israeli government, I would say, "No, this is a lie." and then like the lie was that it wasn't the evening, it was like at night. You know what I mean? So they just say like that was a lie is like something that takes the whole sentence, and then you know that it's not really a denial, right? If they say like no, I did not have ice cream, that's a denial. But
Yeah.
if they say that is a lie, that's not a denial. You know what they said? They asked the guy, they asked either the prime minister or someone close to the prime minister, like, hey, people say that that you spoke with Trump yesterday and you told him to stop the attack. And you know what he said? He said, yes, I did speak with Trump yesterday. And that's what he said. He didn't say, I told you to stop the attack. But he was like, yes, I did speak with
So what do you think it means?
So what it means is they're not even denying it, which means that Israel is very much interested in people thinking that Israel is the one who stopped the attack. Now, why the fuck would they want to do this? I have no idea. Why would Israel want to be perceived as the one who stopped the attack? So that's why I'm saying there's something going on there. They're maybe trying to apply some pressure. Maybe if I had to guess,
Yeah.
during the whole Gaza war, Trump was using Israel as the bulldog. It's like I have a bulldog on a short leash here, and if you're or a pit bull, right? I have a
Yeah.
pit
Yeah.
bull on a short leash, and if you don't negotiate with me, I'm gonna let go of the leash, right? So maybe that's what they wanted to say, which is like, oh, I wanted to attack, but Israel told me not to attack. Sounds better than like I changed my mind because I'm Trump and I wanted to give them a chance. It's
That
like
could be
no,
interesting.
Israel, their defenses weren't ready. You know, that's like kind of the perfect out for Trump. Now, this is pure speculation from my part. I don't know, but I'm just like trying to imagine why would Israel not deny? Why wouldn't they say, "Hey, Netanyahu, people say the New York Times said that you told Trump to stop the attack. That's a lie." You know, that's how I would expect him to deny it if he did tell Trump to stop the attack. He would just say that's a lie because it's like, no, I didn't call
So
him.
you think Israel is being used? Netanyahu's doing Trump a solid by giving him a way out.
Yeah, I'm 100% sure they're 100% coordinated. So there's absolutely
For sure,
no
they're
way
coordinated.
that like someone from Israel leaked it to the New York Times without telling the Americans, or someone American leaked it to the New York Times without telling the Israelis. That zero chance. But like what they're trying to do, I have no fucking idea. No idea. And especially since so many Iranians are disappointed and so many of them are like, hey, Netanyahu, you said that you're going
Yeah.
to help us and now you're not helping us. So, like, he's losing a lot of political capital with the Iranians in order to gain political capital with the Americans. But, like, what they're trying to do, I have no idea.
I think we'll obviously know in the next weeks, but I'm just there have been times where Trump has pulled some things, and I was so disappointed. I'm like, can't believe it. I can't believe he's doing this. And then it was all just part of his negotiation. So I almost want to, he almost deserves a little bit of the benefit of the doubt in some ways.
Not
Um,
almost. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm hoping and I think there's a good chance that he knows exactly what he's doing and the outcome will be very good. But I'm just worried because Gaza didn't end up good and Trump is the one who pushed Israel to not, finish Hamas. There's some other things that didn't end up really good that people are pissed at Trump for not getting the job done, Uh,
well, the Israel, Hamas, and Israel and Iran, yeah, they could have finished the regime in retrospect.
Ukraine too, right? He's like, day number one, I'm going to solve the conflict. Okay, buddy, it's been more than a year. You are not making any progress.
And he's pressuring Zelensky. I mean, but Ukraine, the cards are what they are. Unfortunately, like Ukraine was butt out by Biden. I don't know what Trump overpromises things, obviously, but actually, it's hard to solve Ukraine. I'm surprised that Putin wasn't more pragmatic. I thought I was wrong. I thought he would be a much more pragmatic. I thought if Trump offered him a way back to kind of the G7 or whatever and said, "Fine, you take Donbass and Crimea." Buffer zone, Zelensky, you're taking this minerals deal. Putin, you're coming back. We'll bring you back to the kind of to the international stage. And I thought he would take it. I mean, he didn't quite promise the international stage, but I don't know. I really did think Putin would take it.
But
So
the other thing is, I just want to kind of, for our readers, because this is, or our listeners and
viewers,
subscribers, viewers, I really want you guys to understand that you don't know, for example, Putin, right? You don't know who that reports to him, right? There are a bunch of people that can kick him out, right? And so what do those people think? There's probably two factions. One faction that says we should like not give in to the West, another faction that says we should give in to the West. And then Putin has to negotiate between those two factions. So like by you saying like Putin, I thought Putin would be so and so. I'm thinking of the whole regime of Russia, right? And like, who the fuck
Yeah, but they're a bunch of loyalists.
prices are good for them? I was thinking a lot about the fact that maybe they did this whole thing because like the energy prices increased because of the war, which is good for Russia's budget. So like for them, it's like, okay, we're gonna sacrifice 1 million people out of 100 and something million that we have, and we're going to just make more money. So maybe that's the calculus. And then it doesn't matter if he can come back to the world stage or whatever, right? If the energy prices go down. Now, people say Venezuela will bring the energy prices down, and that will solve Ukraine because then
Well,
Putin.
hell, they'll put pressure. Yeah.
But I don't know. Again, like we don't know what's the minimum that they need to survive as a regime in Russia, and we don't know who controls, like who pulls the strings, besides Putin. I'm imagining that Putin is like kind of like a coalition builder, even though he's a dictator. But at the end of the day, you have power brokers, right? That in any system, like if even if you're a king, do you know, by the way, how the whole idea of monarchy, it got started by a bunch of chieftains coming together and saying, okay, let's cooperate. And I was like, "Okay, great, let's cooperate. But what happens if two of us don't disagree? We're all equal. So like, okay, let's take one, and he will be the one that arbitrates all the disputes between us. Okay, who should we choose? We should choose the person who's wealthiest. Why? Because he has the most to lose by fucking us over,
Wait,
And
is that actually the reason? I didn't know this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, this is
Wait,
like,
they chose the wealthiest person because
it can be the wealthiest, it can be the most powerful, it
what
can be the
about
one,
the? Yeah, I
the
was gonna
one that
say.
has the best relationships with everybody. But the idea is, if we are 10 people, right, and each of us owns a tenth of the country,
Yeah,
and we want to cooperate instead of fight each other, we need someone that's above all of us to arbitrate disputes. And that's how monarchies started, right? And so then the idea is, okay, the king can't just do whatever he wants, because like if he pisses off enough of the elite, then they'll figure out how to kick him. The revolutions are started by elites. Revolutions are never started by
yeah.
people.
No,
So Putin, who knows? Who knows? Like, how's the power structure in Russia? And it's really hard when Europe doesn't have an army. It's really hard to have leverage. I'm
wait.
sorry.
Was that there was a thing on Twitter? I don't know if it was true or not. That what England sent one soldier. It has to be bullshit. Someone
No,
else.
that's like an exercise. People used it for a joke. It was like an exercise. Yes,
Okay,
you
good,
sent
good.
one soldier.
No, because I thought it would be, the only reason I thought it could be real is they put someone token in there just to say like you can't attack. Of course, they're not going to actually defend against the. Oh, first of all, Greenland. Do you think he's actually going to get Greenland? They,
Well,
they seem very
yes,
serious
I'm
about.
100% sure he's gonna get it. It's not forced, but it's more like it's gonna be. Yeah, but it was really funny to see because, like, we both of us live in DC, and many times I'm walking by the White House, and I saw I saw it on Twitter, but I know that corner really well. It's like you see the Greenland, the Prime Minister or the Foreign Minister of Greenland just getting out of the White House, immediately like lighting a cigarette and lighting the cigarette of the guy next to her, and clearly they were very stressed at the meeting because like literally as soon as they leave the White House, they like light a cigarette in January weather in DC. My point is, for
Oh
sure
my
they'll
god,
get it, because just like uh, Jimmy Carr, one of my favorite comedians, he has a bit
that was
where
awesome.
someone says like, "Hey Jimmy, should we sell Greenland to the U.S.?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course you should sell it." He's like, "Why should we sell it?" It's like, because otherwise they're gonna take it for free. Like, what are you
Do
gonna
you
do?
have an army?
Yeah, it's like how. Oh my god, what a world we live in, huh?
We live in a fucking. Sorry, we're cussing a lot. We live in a. Believe in me. It. I mean, it's just the '90s had like Kosovo. It's like, oh, Kosovo. What's happening now is just absolute insanity. Zooming out, it's a complete geopolitical realignment of the world.
Yeah.
Like complete.
I mean, we're due, right? Like
We're due
1945 to 2025.
80 years.
80 years. It's exactly, the cycles are exactly 80 years. And it makes sense because, like, Vietnam and Korea and all of that nothing changed there. It was just the USSR fighting the US and the third world, like normal, right? That's what
Yep.
we used. Like the normal stuff would have been for like Trump to send some troops into Iran and then Iran to like do an insurgency and then we stay there for 10 years and it costs us trillions of dollars, right? That would be the normal playbook. Instead, he's like doing something completely different.
I guess it also makes sense from a World War One to World War Two. Alliances changed, but they weren't like it wasn't huge. Well, it wasn't huge alliance changes, but there was some. World War Two to
Say
now,
that World War II is exactly just a continuation of World War One.
yeah,
So basically like a
with some
pause, like
changes.
a ceasefire,
Yeah.
and then they just restarted it. Um,
But I think we're going to see some realignments too. I think, namely, U.S. from hating or being adversaries with many of the Middle East countries, hopefully will be now partners. The Middle East seems to be where the power is coming from, and then Africa.
yeah, yeah. Well, anyway, we'll see. Do you want to talk about markets at all?
Let's
I
do
have
it.
a few thoughts. Nice to see that tech and S&P like all-time high. So that's really nice.
Are the
And
all-time high today? I didn't
I
look.
mean, kinda like they're teetering on the all-time high for like a couple of weeks now. My point is like it looks like really the productivity gains from AI and automation and all of that stuff will really, really help with the debt and everything. And I saw Elon Musk opening like a new lithium refinery. Really amazing timelines. They opened it in very, uh, very short time.
I'm looking at the markets. A lot of the today. Let me see. Nasdaq is flat. S&P is flat. But what's pumping is Bitcoin and AI plays by like 12%. They have high vol anyway, like Iron and Cipher. These Bitcoin miners and even Marathon, CleanSpark is pumping. But Bitcoin is down itself.
No, I'm just
So,
like looking at all-time highs
no,
for
no, I know, but I know. I'm getting more specific. Like something happens. Some sort of AI thing got announced today. It just
Uh,
anyway.
I don't know what got announced, but my point is I'm really optimistic and I want to hear your take
Yeah.
on like, do you think that we'll get enough productivity to make up for the debt, make up for all the money print?
I
Like, do you think we
mean,
have like an optimistic scenario ahead of us, or are we gonna have like some kind of crash?
no, I'm very optimistic about productivity gains. The question is where and how. Like you have, are they going to come within? Basically, are companies going to develop from within? It's a bit of a micro. Like on a macro level, yes, I'm very optimistic. I mean, we always kind of talk about it. I want to take a little micro just for a second.
Hmm.
Um, are companies going to change from within? So products like Microsoft Copilot, which is terrible, or Claude Cowork seems to be pretty good. But regardless, these products that come in and make you much faster at your job, is that what's going to finally take hold? Because let's face it, people use LLMs, but it's still, you know, I think people use a tenth of what it could be used for, and those are the advanced users. So,
Hmm.
but will that finally take hold where you're just making me a deck about blah 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 and just makes you the deck, right?
That
And you
already works. Claude, I saw some amazing stuff with Claude.
Exactly. So, but will that happen on a mass scale, or will people who embrace AI start micro companies, and those will just make bigger companies extinct? Like, is it going to be killing companies, or companies will be able to reinvent themselves from the inside? I think it's going to be the second. I think it's going to be killing companies.
I mean, yeah, I think like anything, it's going to be a combination of the strongest companies can adapt. Like, I'm really, really impressed by how Google adapted to AI. It could have really been a moment that kills it. And kudos to them, right? So it's like, or Microsoft, how they adapted from being a spreadsheet company in the 80s. And, they got on the cloud, they got on like, so like, yes, it's gonna kill some companies, but like I think the productivity is much more like each person becoming a little bit more productive. If you think about it, a 5% productivity gain across the economy can happen if every worker is 5% more effective. And like some of the stuff that I'm seeing, like even like I'm seeing in big tech companies, people go to meetings after they have vibe coded something, and then they just show the thing in the meeting, right? and then they get a go no go in terms of getting resources for it to actually build it. Now think of how powerful this is. Before, you would pitch a
Yeah.
slide, then there would be like so much debate internally, then you would maybe get like some approval. Many projects wouldn't be approved that should have been approved. Many projects would be
Yeah,
approved.
it will take out the inefficiency for
So
sure.
that's what I'm saying. 5%, I totally see 5% per year, and that's all we need. Literally, if we just improve productivity of 5% per year, that's like amazing. We can have just like continued growth. All the debt doesn't matter and all of that
Yeah.
is, and
That'd
like
be
I
really
can really
cool.
see it happening now. The other problem though is like if it happens too fast, it's not good. But I think that's easy to control for because like I don't know, like the robots, all the physical stuff, it's not going to happen too fast.
How do you
Just because it takes a long time to build robots. It's like Tesla with the cars, right? It takes a while to scale production of cars and robots and stuff. And if you look at software, it's like, okay, but software is pretty efficient anyway. So it's not like it's gonna like, make something twice as efficient just because the software part of it is efficient. Like the energy, probably not gonna become much more efficient. The what else is going into like producing stuff? You have energy, you have like putting stuff together and like shipping it, which is also energy. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be too fast. So all these people that are like, oh, you're going to lose all these jobs, like it's not going to happen if it doesn't happen too fast.
I'm one of those people that thinks I disagree with you here. I think people we're going to see unemployment. Specifically, I would look at young unemployment, which is already rising. It gets rid of the entry level positions first, and then moves up the stack from a human capital perspective. Look at what's happening with entry level positions. I mean, a lot of it can be done, and then the question is, then how will companies be run? You need some sort of level of intelligence, or just AI eats it all, and you have these micro startups in the future. But I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to. I think people will be forced to adapt to doing kind of micro startups and the gig economy. Everything kind of happens for a reason in life, and so we're like the gig economy. I think it teaches a lot of people how to be these little mini entrepreneurs, if you will, at least run your own thing. And then later on, the people that will get ahead will be the ones that adapt to AI the fastest. So you're running your own little thing, right? But instead of using a platform tool, you create your own platform tool, right? Or you build it, or you build some sort of thing that lasts for a year or two until someone catches up, and then it changes. And then maybe that's okay. Maybe that's in the economy of the future. A whole bunch of, like, before we had one company, yeah, I don't know, um, steel, right? Steel
Mhm,
company that had a monopoly for 100 years. Then, as innovation became faster, companies popped up and died quicker, and so on and so forth, right?
mhm.
I think the economy of the future would be just like that. It's like the same. We had movies, now we had YouTube videos, now we have shorts, and now we have memes. Things just start moving quicker. That's
Yeah,
my
no, that's
prediction,
gonna
anyway.
be great. I think we'll move quicker. I think I really liked aspect of why I'm so bullish about Bitcoin. It's because like if you think about it, as the prices fall because of productivity, you as a government need to print a bunch of money, but like you don't want to piss the people who don't own assets too much. And so then the
Piss
question
them
is like
off.
printed money, yeah, you don't want to piss them off. So then the question is, where do you send the money that you print, right? And there's a couple of things, like you can give it to people as UBI, but that could create inflation and other problems. But what you could do something else is like you could just like take that money and just like use it to lower prices of stuff, like to build factories and to incentivize factories that lower food costs. So for example, you can say, okay, like whoever is able to lower the cost of beef, right, will get this government grant, and the grant will be all printed money. But then think of it, this is like printing money without creating inflation. So like there's many creative things that have never been tried, where you can just like reduce the prices of things by intervening in the market. Like for example, the eggs. Do you remember that eggs were expensive
Yeah.
at some point? So now
I'm
that
just, I'm just, I'm reacting to you saying reduce the price of things. We're intervening in the market. That's never a recipe, or seldom a recipe for success. But I would love to hear your idea.
well, I
Because
mean, it hasn't been a recipe for success if you intervene in the market by capping the price, but it could be a recipe of success to basically say, look, we're gonna, no capital gains tax if your enterprise lowers the cost of food. Or, and that's what got me thinking, which is like we're thinking in in very conventional ways in economics. And just like we broke the rules in geopolitics, who says that we can't break the rules in economics, right? So like I definitely know that the future will be like I wrote in my book, like everybody will get like cheap stuff, and like the expensive stuff would be status based stuff.
Yeah.
But how we get there, I don't know. There could be like
No,
a good.
but what's the link? I agree with that end thesis, but the link of saying I will, if things become cheaper, right? Then the government also has to spend less. They won't need to print money. That's deflation.
No, no. That's a good point. Maybe I didn't clarify myself. The idea is now people are complaining that a steak costs like a pound of ground beef costs like whatever $9, too expensive. So like, what can the government do about it? It can either give money to people so they can afford the ground beef,
Yeah.
right? Or it can somehow incentivize lowering the cost of the ground beef.
Yeah.
We haven't tried to
No,
do.
I get it. I get it. But if they lower the cost, then you do it for every industry, then it's deflation.
Okay, but you have to spend money to lower the cost. So yeah, like it's deflation for those products.
It's either deflation
They
or subsidy, or just a straight up subsidy, and the subsidy increases inflation. A subsidy is saying, okay, you haven't lowered costs, but it's either forcing people to lower costs by paying them to, spend money on research that they wouldn't otherwise have had, but increases had they spend their own money would increase the average price, right? What the total cost of producing a product, it would have increased it, or you yeah, or it's deflation. I don't think there's
but
another way
wait, I'm
around it.
not talking about subsidy.
But
I'm
it's effectively it's a subsidy either way. Whether you pay the company or you pay the company to research how to do it cheaper. The
no,
company would have found how to do it cheaper on its own.
not necessarily. That's what I'm saying. That's kind of the new paradigm, right? That's the thing that Trump is doing, like taking over Intel, doing a bunch of things that kind of blatantly intervene in the market. It's because the market is not doing it on its own. Now, there could be many reasons for why the market. Maybe it's a duopoly. And then like they don't have an incentive to do it on their own. You know what I mean? So like my point is nobody has tried to like lower prices of consumer goods as a government policy, because people always thought that deflation is bad. And I think we're going in a situation where overall there's no deflation. Overall, we keep the CPI at like 2.5%. But that CPI will be a blend of housing going up 10% and like consumer stuff going down 8%, if we imagine that housing and consumer are 50-50 for this thought exercise. But my point is the economy will bifurcate in a way where the rich are getting richer, but the poor are not necessarily getting poorer. And that's something that we haven't, I haven't heard too many people talk about it. Like I only heard one podcast speak about that. And basically that podcast said that Bitcoin is the perfect asset to inflate. Because if you think about it, any other asset that you inflate has problematic consequences for the market, right? So if you inflate the stock market, suddenly the companies need to create more cash flow to justify that valuation. And if they don't, they'll crash. If you inflate real estate, it's harder for people to own homes, right? If you inflate basically anything you inflate, if you inflate bonds, then
Yeah,
the
but how?
rate
Okay, but
bonds go
how
down and
does
then real estate goes up because people take mortgages. So my point is the bottom line of that podcast is because the government will need to inflate one asset and deflate another asset, Bitcoin is the perfect asset for them
how
to.
how is it they're going to choose to? They can't choose what they inflate. How are they
Yes,
going
they
to choose?
can buy Bitcoin and strategic Bitcoin or
Yeah,
something.
but you
That's choosing to inflate Bitcoin, right? I'm not saying they'll do it. I'm just saying
right.
the thesis was that it's better to inflate Bitcoin, that inflating Bitcoin has less negative social consequences than inflating any other asset. And they will have to inflate the assets because without printing the money, they can't take care of the debt. Because, like, what happens if you just let the deflation happen? To your point, right? If the government didn't manage this and just let the deflation happen, then the debt could be a big problem. So then what they have to do is to just print money to offset the debt. And then that's what I started my whole very long rant here, which says like it's nice that you print money, but what do you do with the printed money? And my bet here on this podcast, you heard it first, is we will see some things that are not orthodox, that have not been tried before. And we saw this for the first time with Intel. Okay. This
Well,
has never happened before. That the US government just like, I'm going to take 10% of a privately owned company. And we're going to see more of that stuff.
I don't know if that's ever happened before. Actually, we should check that in the U.S. maybe, but it
No,
happens.
I'm only talking about the US.
Yeah,
I'm only
okay.
talking about the US.
We should check
My
if it's
whole
happened.
tirade is about the US because, like, we're the only ones that have enough power to print a lot without increasing prices. Like, Europe can't do it because they don't have any GDP growth. All the GDP growth is coming here. Like, it's all the robots, the AI, everything's happening here in the US and maybe China, but China is not exactly a free economy, so it's hard for me to analyze it.
Let's see. I would love to double click on this next time, please. And what I want to understand mechanically how you think it's going to be, where the government prints money, inflates Bitcoin, how that's going to cause deflation and other. I don't see how the policy, the inflating Bitcoin seems a bit theoretical to me. Yes, it's a thing that goes. It's the best thing to do because it doesn't affect it. But you can't. Yes, you can buy Bitcoin only. What is that like? With if things cost cheaper, they're going to cost cheaper for the government, which will create deflation, will create less tax revenue. You have less sales tax that goes on because things are cheaper.
Not if you inflate Bitcoin.
What
That's
do you
what I'm
mean not
saying.
if you inflate
That's
Bitcoin?
exactly what I'm saying. You
But
make
the
up.
government takes in less money. With what money are they inflating? And then what are they doing? Putting the money
They
buying Bitcoin
print
and other stuff?
money, they
Yeah.
inflate Bitcoin and the stock market and real estate, and they collect capital gains taxes. So
Oh,
it's like,
you're talking about shifting taxes into capital gains versus off of sales and consumable goods because you're not getting enough from those.
yes, that's exactly what I said, which is like two premises. One, they have to print money to deal with the debt. Two, given the fact that you have deflation in consumer goods, whether the government does it or whether the free
Yeah,
market
but
does
this is
it,
the whole thing
actually
of
doesn't matter.
yeah, it
Given the
doesn't
fact
matter.
that you have deflation in consumer goods, you will have to inflate assets. And then the question is, which assets do you inflate? They're probably going to inflate kind of across the board, but Bitcoin is very good as an asset to inflate. Gold is also pretty good as an asset to inflate because if you think about it, okay, yes, it has industrial use cases, but the industrial use cases aren't like huge. So inflating gold is much better than
Yeah,
inflating real
I
estate.
buy this. I buy this from the fact of they need to collect capital gains taxes.
Yeah,
So they'll inflate it with through policy. They'll create policies. They'll be you tax it in the end, but getting in will be easier,
exactly.
and they push money. Yeah, but we talked about this. Yeah, we talked about this a while ago. That capital goods will appreciate and consumer goods will shrink. But I think the government doesn't need to do that. Markets will do it themselves. But I get your point that
They
maybe
need
this
to
time we'll
accelerate
accelerate
now.
it
Yeah.
by. Okay, I've come around, fully around.
Well, because I've heard people basically say, in order to compete with China, we have to become more like China. China is like, we don't care, we need manufacturing, we get it done, and then they have a huge advantage over us in manufacturing. So we have to start doing kind of similar things in order to compete with them in the like world market.
I like it. All right, Shimon.
This was good. Any other last thoughts?
Well, probably the next time we talk, we'll see some movement on geopolitical. We should talk about collapsing banks. Actually, next time we should
Yeah,
talk about collapsing banks. What does it actually mean? How does it look? If one collapses, how do the others collapse? Very prescient for Iran because one of their main bank collapsed. But we haven't talked about that ever.
that's true. That's true. A lot.
And poof, it's gone. Okay, next topic.
No, that sounds good. Awesome. Well, hope that everybody has a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time, Alex.
See you next time.
Bye.